Alright, so here we go. We're going to do one more grouping by factoring. So first part is to make my two groups. Here's the first group, and here is the second group. Okay, what do you think you do first? I'm going to find the common factors of the first group. So in order to do that, I'm going to break down 18 as 2 times 9 and then 3 times 3. Okay, so I know 18 is 2 times 3 times 3 and 2 x's, and 30 is 3 times 10 and an x. Alright, so what do they have in common? They have in common a 3 and an x, a 3 and an x. So here we go. 3x is my greatest common factor. And what's left over? 2 times 3 is 6 and an x. I'm going to bring down my minus sign. And when I mark out the 3 and the x, I have left over a 10. Alright, so let's look at the second group. And it looks like that should have been in red. So just to make things a little better, I'm going to change that to red because that's my first group. And I'm going to change that. No, I'm not. We'll leave it there. Alright, so let's look at the second group. What does the second group have in common? A 3 and an x and a 5. Nothing in common. When nothing is in common, I'm just going to pull out a 1. Okay? But because this is a minus right here, I'm going to pull this out as a negative 1. Okay? So when I take this, I want you to keep in mind some signs. This 3 is really a negative 3, and this 5 is really a positive 5. So remember I told you you could see what was common in each of one, or you could just divide. I'm going to divide this by a negative 1, and I'm going to divide this by a negative 1, because that's what I have in front. So negative 3x divided by negative 1 leaves me positive 3x. And a positive 5 divided by negative 1 leaves me a negative 5. And I have a mistake somewhere. Oh, okay. You know what? Learning thing. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I want you to see. Do you see that these are not the same? Anytime they're not the same, that means you have a problem. And what I notice here is this 10, I didn't break it down all the way. Alright? So here's what I'm going to tell you. What do these have in common here? They both have really a 2. So not only am I going to pull out a 3x, but I'm also going to pull out a 2 from here. And if I divide this by 2 and I divide this by 2, it leaves me 3x minus 5. And the second part I can just keep the same. Now when I look at it, do I have something in common here? And in here? Of course I do. 3x minus 5. And what's left over in the first part? Really, 3 times 2 is 6x minus 1. Okay? I'll go back and I'll do this correctly so that you can see it, but sometimes that happens, and you got to know what to do when that happens, okay? Always make sure, though, that whatever you have in this one is the same in this one. If they aren't, you've done something wrong and you need to go back and look. Okay? So in the next slide, I'll do it all over again the correct way.